Anyway, we're getting away from Halo and Microsoft. So, David, what do you think about this new, like, you hear Xbox is doing an anniversary event for the 25th anniversary, which is in 2026. Are they going to try to jump the gun and with the rumblings of like PS6 coming out later than 2026? Do you think Microsoft's going to try to replicate what they did nearly 20 years ago and kind of do their Xbox 360 moment again? And at least they'll try to do it again.
Yeah, I don't know that. I mean, they would have to. They've been doing poorly the last few years. Like this, like for them to drop a new console, like out of nowhere, it would mean that this was in the works for a long, long time, which just doesn't really jive with how it seems like they've been doing. You know, I just really can't see with how they've been just blowing it, like secretly developing an awesome new console while they're doing that.
It's not secret. It's been known, and they've even confirmed it this year that they've been developing a successor.
Yeah, but they don't. We don't have any actual. We don't know when it's going to
come out
on this thing. We don't have any concrete info on this thing. So that's what I say when I mean secret.
Yeah,
they're gonna drop if they're gonna drop something like out of the blue that we previously had no concrete info on. It means they've been pouring a whole lot of resources and effort into this when it seems like, for all intents and purposes, they're basically just blowing everything, and everything they touch is turning into poop, you know?
You're right. It truly is. It's really sad because they're doing the cloud gaming stuff, but they have trained their Xbox fans, their consumer base to not purchase games. And that's really unfortunate with Game Pass, with now cloud streaming. It's really sad because they're kind of like swaying away from an entire different market, and they're not making money off of it, and they're eating the costs versus PlayStation, who is still like doing what's been tried and true, you know?
There has been day one game releases on PlayStation Plus.
Yeah, totally.
More often than not. Even like,
but you're not seeing Forbidden West on day one.
First party games. But they did go through and add, Horizon Zero Dawn director's cut to the PlayStation library to get people amped beforehand. And like Stray was a day one release.
Yeah, Stray. And they had Forbidden West on there later, and now they just took it off because they
rotate out.
They rotate out.
They rotate out, and then they give people an opportunity to purchase the game first. And I say opportunity because I know some people are going to have problems with that. They want the studio to earn the money that they've put the hard work in for.
Totally.
Before they give it away and people play it or don't like it. And I know I'm a little biased and I try not to be, but like, I'm like, oh, I'll get back to this later because it was free anyways. And I don't actually devote myself to something that I paid money for because I'm like, oh, hell no, I'm getting my money out of this. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so I think it's a good move. I don't think it's as
it's
quick of a
that Sony's doing that or Xbox?
Yeah, I love that Sony's doing it that way because it still supports the developers. It still supports an ecosystem like gaming and the gaming industry.
Yeah.
I don't like Microsoft's buy every studio and throw it on Game Pass and let's leech a dying industry. And I say that sparingly. I don't mean to be so grim. Gaming is not dying, but it is in a little bit of a trouble at the moment, and that is not something that is helping.
Well, I mean, they closed was it Arcane Austin it was Arcane Austin. They closed down Arcane Austin. Right. They closed down Tango Gameworks, and who got bought by Krafton, who run PUBG, and now they're going to work on a Hi-Fi Rush sequel and other projects as well. So they're alive. Who knows how many more people are going to go back to that studio because they lost their job 6 months before that. Right. But Microsoft's cutting corners. They're cleaning house. They're doing businessy things. They're laying off folks. But it's like, it's just sad to me because I love Halo. Like, I love it so much. And I think a lot of people like are in the same camp where they're like, this is your prime IP. This should be treated like your Uncharted, your Last of Us. Like, you should go out. I
love that you're using PlayStation IPs as like
this should legit. Halo should be their Last of Us or And I think they've tried to do that. They've tried to do a movie on it back in the Xbox One reveal where they're like, here's Steven Spielberg making a Halo movie, which never happens.
Yep.
Or Peter Jackson's going to produce it and all this crap.
There's like 2 or 3 different Halo series on Amazon.
What?
Yeah. They also had like a 3D animated series, I think, on Paramount. It was not as...
The only other Halo show I remember was like a little mini series they did was...
Bring
like
back
an
Red vs.
anime.
Blue.
The anime, which was Halo Legends, which
Halo
was
Legends.
dope.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Yeah, I remember that.
The anime like mini like montage series they did.
Yeah.
And then you had Forward Unto Dawn live action, which did a pretty decent job, I think. Like bringing that like synergy that we see nowadays with like, oh, there's a Last of Us game remastered part 2 because Last of Us season 2 is going to come out. So let's do that and let's release that, you know? Like Forward Unto Dawn did a pretty good job at that. But back to Halo, you need more care into this IP. The Halo show on Paramount was an attempt, but I feel like there's way more people that were disappointed that they didn't stick to the strict lore of the games, and that tuned a lot of people out. And as a result, after season 2, there's going to be no more, unfortunately.
I think
It's very sad because season 2 is phenomenal.
I think the fundamental problem here is, and I think we kind of discussed this a little bit when we did us two did our episode.
You guys did a good job, by the way. It was fun to listen to you guys talk about that.
Is game, like, you should be putting out games that people want to go out and drop $60 on. Mm-hmm. That should be the business model for these large companies and their big flagship titles. And unfortunately, Microsoft doesn't seem to get that right now.
Well, they're trying to do it in a different format and shake up the industry forcibly, like literally give it a shake, which is when they announced Game Pass. I'm like, oh, this could be a big turnaround for Xbox. I remember when that was, I think 2018, they announced it. And Sea of Thieves was day one on Game Pass and going forward. And all this
yeah, that's the problem.
When it launched, it was a really cool concept.
It was a cool concept.
I remember just being that old man in the corner, like stick in the mud with like all the guys, right? And when they'd hang out, we'd be like, oh, well, I only play it if it's on Game Pass because it's free. And I'm just like, you need to support developers.
Yeah.
And you need to do this. And they're like,
what are you talking about, Mo? It's my money.
Exactly. They're just like, why would I even waste money on that? I'm like, because eventually that studio is not going to be around if you're not paying for it. And I can't imagine that Microsoft is paying them fair compensation. Granted, it is a more stable compensation than if we release a game and say you only sell 200,000 copies versus 5 million copies. Your income is going to be greatly different, but Microsoft says we're going to pay you X amount, and that may be over or under whatever the market would have actually sold, right? But I can't imagine them adding all these games and paying a premium to have them on Game Pass.
Yeah.
Do you guys know how Minecraft the game works nowadays? Where in terms of you boot up Minecraft, say on your computer, it has the store and it's user generated and made content that people sell on there, and Microsoft takes a cut of it and the majority of it, and that's how they're keeping that game alive with user Bedrock on specifically. Like you can play with your friends on PS5, PS4, all the Xbox consoles and PC and Switch, and they all have access to this store. Kind of like the Creation Club that Bethesda tried to implement, but this is like a successful version of that. I think it's interesting because you see Bethesda still trying to do that, and now that Microsoft owns them, it'd be awesome to, not awesome, but it'd be interesting to see them kind of do that for those things. And I know in the gaming circles that's been discussed, but that doesn't work for every single game.
Yeah,
the Minecraft model doesn't work for State of Decay or Skyrim, or not Elder Scrolls 6 when it eventually comes out. Like that's not really going to work.
That is,
you know, to keep bringing
Bethesda
in money.
games came out on PC where there was a strong mod community, and they're trying to implement that on consoles, which is a cool idea.
Yeah.
But then you're forcing a little bit more of the console variant on PC gamers, and they're like, oh, well, we have the Creation Club. And you're like, bro.
Yeah, bro.
Timmy down the street just made the coolest mod ever, and he changed all the icons. And I didn't even have to go through...
Skyrim's a tropical island now, bro.
Yeah, you didn't have to do anything with anybody else, and I didn't have to pay for it.
Yeah, and it's
the modding community on Skyrim was born out of a love for the game, and you just can't monetize that in the same way you can monetize fleecing gullible parents by advertising Minecraft content to kids.
Or Minecraft coins, like you can buy to purchase this content. You know?
I have another kid ask me for V-Bucks. They're getting punched in the neck. I'm just saying.
But yeah, it's like, and you see it also with Sony. Sony's trying to do this with all their live service stuff they're trying to push out. You saw Concord, which was like this Overwatch clone that came out.
Yeah.
That was a failure. And it was just really just sad that you had that get greenlit and pushed through. And all this money, and it turns out, I don't know if you heard about this, but when they were pitching Concord to Sony, they already invested and had investors invest like $200 million already. Then Sony bought the company, and then they put another $200 million from Sony into that game. And it was pitched that it was going to be the future of PlayStation, that this game was going to be the new Star Wars for PlayStation and all this kind of crap. It's all corporate speak that's pitching to this company. And there's also a thing about like, hey, we can't criticize the game. We can't say bad things about it because we want it to succeed. And they're already investing everything into us. So we need to just keep it good relations. Right. The game comes out, $40, nobody buys it. And it's also not a very good game. And then they take it down and shut it off and it's a write-off. At least that's assumedly what it's going to be. But it's like, you guys greenlit Concord, but you canceled Last of Us Factions. Excuse me? Your premier IP multiplayer game that was looks awesome?
Okay.
Excuse me?
I'm sorry,
I'm just so mad at them.
Twofold problem on that one from my perspective is games as a service, live game service games. We're not there yet. I think they're going to keep chipping away at this until cloud gaming is a prominent console versus an actual console or PC. When we get to that point, right? I think that's when games as a service is going to be a real thing and it's going to be popular. Right now, people can't justify being nickeled and dimed. And I think we did for a little bit.
We did. Yeah.
And people are like,
I think that was the defining thing out of that PS4 and Xbox One generation was the live service is now going forward. But now the way the world is, that's not really being a sustainable way for people to keep spending their money on.
And I know we touched this when we talked about it. Charge me $79.99. Charge me $89.99.
Charge me $100 if you want.
Charge me $100, but you better give me the full dang game, and it better be good.
Yeah.
And I know you have great ideas because this is your damn job, but don't say it's free or $10 and then nickel and dime me for 10 times more than what I would have paid if you just charged me $100 per game.
Yeah, it's like Plants vs. Zombies 2 was the first time I realized this. Like I'm like, it's free? Awesome. So I download it on my phone and I'm playing it and I'm like, this is really fun.
99
and
cents
then you
is
get
easy
to a
spend
point
real
where
quick.
you're like, oh man, like this, all the great stuff is locked behind these gems. And then you so on and so forth, make you spend money. And now you have all this like mobile and corporate speak translating to this stuff. And that's what live service was.
Right.
And now it's kind of only the big dogs are left. You have Fortnite, maybe Apex. And all the other stuff falls away.
Yeah, but see, they're not. Fortnite doesn't hide their stuff.
Here's one more thing.
paywall.
One more point I want to bring up because the premium service model works. Like Concord tried it, failed.
Right.
But Monster Hunter Worlds gave you a good game with extra content, extra support. Decay 2, which I know you played, has that same format. And they provided and updated the game and gave care to the players and kept them coming back.
Well, that's where you add the DLC. You add an extra area. You add more lore. You add more to the game itself, not a skin.
And those games were great on Game Pass. And were great on live, like streaming the memberships and all that.
Right.
But it's coming to a point where it's kind of like time is the currency. It's not money anymore. It is money, but for sure. But it's a lot of time as well.
Right.
Like I don't go back to Fortnite anymore because I'm like, I don't want to spend 75 hours going through this battle pass for $10. Like, yeah, sure, that's content and I get to hang with friends and talk on a mic and play the game. But I want to go play Age of Mythology. I want to play Space Marine 2. These games look awesome and super fun.
You're talking to the guy who literally did not play Fortnite. My kids play. I do not. Play at all. No. I don't play Minecraft. I don't play. They tried. They tried really hard, right?
Yeah.
I compromised on PlayStation. I played the Vampire Masquerade or whatever. It was a like a battle royale of like vampires and like
Oh.
really,
Oh,
it was
yeah,
really
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
The concept was really cool. I didn't play,
But
very
you're not
much.
playing a battle royale
I don't
games
play
outside of that.
Apex. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't play freemium games. Charge me a real dollar amount, a lot or a little. I don't care. But charge me a game
Yeah.
and give me a game. Don't say it's free and then nickel and dime the shit out of me. It actually makes me really mad.
Yeah, and that's kind of the problem too, is the success on the games industry for most of its lifespan has been built on consumer trust in the studios putting out products that people want to buy. And unfortunately, what nowadays it seems like companies are more interested in coming up with new ways to squeeze money out of customers for nothing rather than continue to deliver on the thing which built that consumer trust in the first place.
And it's really sad because I think Sony kind of has faltered in this a lot, because you saw like the CEO, Jim Ryan, who's now out. He wanted to do a bunch of the live service stuff, and he kept that company going. Like during the pandemic, he made sure that there's a crazy story where like he made sure that PS5s were loaded onto airplanes that they paid extra money for to get to America to sell the PS5s. And it's like crazy. Like he kept the company alive. Like, great. That's awesome. Dandy. But he also really pioneered the live service push with Sony. And they had 10 games in development as of 2022. And I think about half of those have been canceled already. You had a Twisted Metal live service game. You had the Factions multiplayer.
Wait, what was the Twisted Metal live service game?
It was made by another outside studio they brought in. They actually purchased that studio that they shut down.
Okay, because I purchased Twisted Metal 2 and plus Twisted Metal Black.
Yeah.
When the Twisted Metal show launched on Peacock. Also, super
Great show. Awesome show. Actually, David, I think you'd like it.
Yeah,
it's really
it's
fun.
really good.
It's a
And
fun show.
Lots of nostalgia.
It's super good. And yeah, in the homages, and which
Yeah.
I don't really connect with, but I loved watching it as a
it was
it was
great.
cool. It was a cool show. But anyway, there was a Twisted Metal multiplayer project that got canned. Concord we already talked about. The Last of Us Faction. There's also a Spider-Man multiplayer game, Spider-Verse, basically. Like after Spider-Man 2, this was the next step. It was going to be Miles, Peter, Gwen,
so tired
all this
of the
other stuff
multiverse crap, too.
into a live service Spider-Man game. But they canned it not because of the other reasons that a lot of them the other got canned. The reason why Spider-Man got canned is because the royalties they have to pay to Disney and Marvel are like insane, and they don't want to do that. They'd rather focus on original IP like Concord to make all their money.
They owe Disney royalties because I was pretty sure that
Spider-Man 2, they owe Disney. They own Marvel royalties. That's why. Yeah.
I was gonna say I thought that Sony owned Spider-Man outright as far as
They
a video game franchise.
do, but I think because it's connected to Marvel in a way, I know that for a fact for Spider-Man 2 they have to pay Marvel royalties. That's how it works for that game. That's why the budget was like $300 million.
Damn.
It was crazy.
It's also a really good game from the
That's
game
what I hear.
scene. Yeah.
That's why another PS5. Another PS5 one.
And I know Sony has the rights to the movies as well.
Yeah, they don't have to, I think, pay
Yeah.
anything for that.
I think it's just
Yeah.
a video game franchising.
It's like a video game thing, I think,
Yeah,
or whatever.
I don't know. It's good. They've done great. Sony continue to not mess up Spider-Man because it's one of the part of the Marvel universe and Venom, right?
Yeah.
That I'm not irritated with. So
Yeah, and we're gonna get.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, go David.
Sony has its fair share of missteps. Anyone remember,
Everybody
it's
remember
Morbin time?
It's Morbin time, yeah. Or Madam Web that came out this year.
Oh, yeah.
And Craven the Hunter, which is supposed to come out later, which also looks really bad. I don't think it'll be as bad as Madam Web. It might be as good as Mad Venom, but I don't have much
are
faith
those
in
actually
it.
Sony?
Yeah,
Yeah.
those are all Sony. Yeah.
Morbius
They're
was
trying to make their Sony
Sony
Spider-Verse
property.
whatever.
Oh, okay. I was thinking of something else. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't actually get to watch it.
Yeah, no,
which one?
Morbius was
Morbius? Yeah, it was
like
Sony.
totally bombed in the theaters, and then some people on the internet memed Sony into re-releasing it in theaters, and then it bombed again.
It bombed again.
Wow.
They're like, there's so much demand for Morbius. We should put it back in theaters. Spend all this money, and then it just doesn't make any money. It's like $1,000.
Wow.
But yeah, Sony is like, they're in an interesting spot because they're at the top right now. Like, yeah, and then technically Nintendo is kind of like at the top because they sell 120 million Switches and blah blah blah. But Sony's like outside of Nintendo, Sony's like on top and like
as far as AAA
as far as
gaming is
AAA
concerned.
games and console, like actual like general console market, and like they have Microsoft falling by the wayside and actually releasing games on PlayStation now. Like the
I
4
saw
like
that.
Grounded, Sea of Thieves, Pentiment, what was the other one? Hi-Fi Rush. And now Indiana Jones is coming out this spring on PS5, which I'm really interested to see how that's going to do.
I think
I'm really
that
interested in Indiana Jones.
Xbox is going to slowly merge out to as more of a service, like GeForce Now, and a brand versus a platform where they're releasing. Because I know for a long time they were talking about Xbox Game Pass and cloud gaming on Switch.
Yep, that's what they want
for a really long time, right? And so I think that's where Microsoft is. It might still have its toes in, but I feel like that's where this is going.
Yeah, and then they can also release